You just have to feel it. The determination of Ukrainian people, the inspiration, the thing how everybody's pumped up. This is something incredible. And unfortunately, it looks like only such tragic events as war can produce this kind of energy.
This is The Radio Vagabond.
Welcome to a special bonus episode of The Radio Vagabond, in between all the 7 episodes with the 7 nomads that I met in Bansko. Here's another big-time traveler and previous nomad, Orest Zub, directly from Ukraine. How are you, Orest?
Hello, I'm doing great. It's kind of hot a little bit here now, which is not typical for Lviv, where I'm based in Western Ukraine. But nice to see you again. You know, we met in Bansko actually like 2 months ago, right? And here we are again. So cool.
And that was the surprise. I had no idea that you were going to Bansko because I knew that you'd just been to Equatorial Guinea. And I was not expecting you to meet me in Bansko while we all of a sudden we were washing hands in the same bathroom. It was so weird.
To tell the truth, I was not sure if I'm coming there or not until, let's say, 2 days before, because I was flying out from Cameroon after I traveled overland from Equatorial Guinea. And my plane was stopping over in Istanbul. Mm-hmm. So, somewhere just before boarding the plane in Yaoundé, which is the capital of Cameroon, I just thought to myself, why don't I get out of the plane sooner? And since I was already in Istanbul, and I had a ticket to Bansko Festival because I was a speaker last time, so I had a free ticket, and Matthias just wrote to all the former speakers, you don't need to subscribe. You don't need to sign up. Your tickets will be waiting for you at the reception counter. I just thought, that's what I just should do. And I did the overnight bus from Istanbul to Sofia, and then we met in the washing room in the bathroom.
Oh, they're giving tickets. I hope that they're doing it again because I was a speaker this year, so I hope there's a ticket waiting for me next year. Yep. If Matthias is listening, please do that, Matthias.
Maybe I spoiled information a little bit, but that's how it worked out eventually. Yeah.
This episode is brought to you in part by Hotels25.com. It's a website that helps you find the best prices on hotels and guest houses and hostels around the world in one simple search. Hotels25.com.
The Radio Vagabond. Gotta keep moving.
We met the first time in Croatia for Nomad Base, and that was in May 22, so 15 month ago, and that was obviously shortly after the invasion of Ukraine. And at that time, I was surprised to see a Ukrainian man outside of the country because we've all heard that men are supposed to stay in the country and be in the battle, but you have a special job to do in the Ukrainian-Russian war, right?
Of course, first of all, you cannot generalize so much because, there are diplomats, there are people who are living outside of Ukraine who are also Ukrainians. You know, it's not like you can log the border, build a wall, and bring all men from entire world to the country. You know, this is. It doesn't work that way, yeah?
No, but isn't it true that they said, women and children, you can leave and go and be safe, but we want the men to stay here?
According to the martial law, the general rule is that men between 18 and 60 years old are not allowed to cross the border.
Right.
But there are always different exceptions. For example, the man who has 3 infant children, he can travel. The man who has a special license to be the truck driver and operator who's bringing supply. Then the men of different health conditions, different types of disability. Then wounded people. Then people whose relatives died in a war. And and this list goes on and goes on. Like people who travel for particular international events connected with the support to Ukraine. So this list is pretty tall. Obviously, the general rule is that most people do stay inside, but it's still like so weird, because you have this like general rule, and then you think everybody is doing like that. It is most people do this, right? However, there are just like so many more needs, and something like people have to understand is that one soldier at the front line requires at least 15 people in the rear to support him.
Right. In
terms of economy, in terms of diplomacy, in terms of liaison, work, production, logistics, so the war is just much more complicated mechanism than you think.
Of course.
And this is something to keep in mind, obviously.
Yeah. But tell us about what your function is in the war.
My main goal and my mission, as I see it, is to establish as much of international connections between Ukraine and the rest of the world as possible, which is formulated in participating in the conferences, in bringing international organizations to Ukraine, in portraying local organizations in Ukraine and establishing them with the direct contact with Western organizations, with doing media supporting. And since recently, I understood that Ukraine is, because of this reason that you just mentioned, Ukraine is kind of isolated still. Even though all the eyes are watching on Ukraine, logistically, economically, and even somehow politically, it's still isolated. Because most people from inside of Ukraine cannot travel abroad. Most people from abroad are afraid to enter Ukraine. But people is the essence. Where you have people, you have life, you have money, you have connections, and so on. So I truly believe that the success of Ukraine depends on Western presence in Ukraine. So one of my recent major activities, what I'm doing is I try to attract into Ukraine as many people as possible. Because, first of all, it's possible in terms of logistics, and it's definitely possible in terms of the safety situation.
Yeah.
But this is essential. If there are no people at particular place, it means there is no life. If there are people, the life is flourishing. So I want this place to flourish.
Because actually, that's what you did before the invasion of Crimea in 2014. You have a travel agency organizing tours in Ukraine.
Exactly. Like my main first business, and what actually brought me into the life of travel, is a travel agency that I started in 2011,
Yeah.
And things got tough. When Russia invaded Crimea, and this was a signal to people around the world that Ukraine can be dangerous, even though it's uncomparable to what's happening right now.
Of course.
The conflict was still localized between 2014 and 2022, but that basically ruined my business. Yep.
Yesterday, your President Zelensky, was actually in my home country of Denmark. That was yesterday when we're recording this right now. And he went there to thank my country for a donation of 19 fighter jets. And in front of the steps of the Danish parliament, with thousands of Danes out there with the Ukrainian and Danish flags, cheering him on as a hero, he said that he feels confident that Russia is going to lose the war. Is that your feeling too, and is it the feeling of the Ukrainian people? Are you confident that Russia is going to lose?
First of all, thanks a lot for all the jets. This is a very good present, and it also tells a lot about the commitment of your country. In relation to our vision, I'm not a tactical or strategic military expert to explain what's happening on the battlefield, and obviously I don't have access to a lot of information, but in terms of general determination to win, like this is 100% here. Like as I understand, you will come to Ukraine soon, right? So when you will visit this place, like this spirit which is flying everywhere in Ukraine is simply something you cannot really explain in a podcast. You just have to feel it. The determination of Ukrainian people, their inspiration, the thing how everybody is pumped up. This is something incredible, and unfortunately, it looks like only such tragic events as war can produce this kind of energy. Yeah.
Right. When we had the conversation 15 months ago here on the Radio Vagabond, we talked about how it would end. Let's just hear a clip from our conversation back then.
How do you see this end? When the whole thing started, I thought, I don't really see any way this will end. I don't see Putin saying, this was a mistake, I'm going back, sorry. I don't see that happening. And also, at the same time, I don't see the Ukrainian people ever giving up. It'll be last man standing. So a year from now, what's it going to be like? Is it going to be a part of Russia, or is it going to be back to Ukraine and peace again? And
first of all, I really hope it will not last for a year. Secondly, is that it's so unpredictable. Like, who would imagine 2 months ago that Ukraine will resist? That Ukraine will not fall, as many people, were expecting to, right? Ukrainians proved to exercise a tremendous, resistance. Now, once we show to the entire world what we are really worth, we are continuing to receive the support. Our army is getting more equipped, and every single Ukrainian is 100% committed to the victory.
So, Orest, you said that you were expecting it to be over in less than a year. Now it's a year and 3 months later, and it's still going on. So, let me ask you again, how do you see this end?
Was I expecting to be over in less than a year last time?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. All right. Then now I can tell that I was wrong. As we see, it's getting longer than a year, and this will last for quite some time. So even if we're talking about the jets that will be delivered in a good scenario, like next year, right? So then it will take even more.
Yeah.
I will tell you how it's going to end, and we have seen signs of it. First, Ukraine will fight, will succeed on their own territory, including Donbas and including Crimea. Then, most probably, Crimea will become an international zone of NATO presence. And it will be like a huge military presence on Crimea, which is the area, and obviously what West is also dreaming for, to control that area. Then there will be some troubles in Belarus. Somebody will execute Lukashenko or so, and many fighters who are now from Belarusian army who are fighting inside Ukraine, they will spill over to Belarus, because I believe that Belarusian people are still they belong to Europe, like they just have a much tougher time than Ukrainians. So the war in Ukraine will not end within Ukrainian borders. We already see how there is military action happening on the Russian territory, with multiple drone attacks, and we will see this war spilling to Belarus. That, I think, will happen.
Okay.
We will see the solution of Transnistria, which is a sandwich territory between Moldova and Ukraine, and we will see the breakout of Russian Federation from the inside. And this is not a fantasy. We have already witnessed how this could happen with the uprising of Prigozhin.
Yeah.
So these things, they will move. They will move from place to place. Also, when Russia will be started to be eaten from the inside, because there are just so many other nations that their identity is being born as well at the moment. Only up to 65% of modern Russian Federation are ethnical Russians. The rest are different Muslim communities, other ethnicities, and so on. And they also deserve their own independence and their own nation state.
Yeah.
This process might take decades, but we are getting there, and the democracy is moving eastward. This is what we also see. Another puzzle which is integral in this situation is the question of Kaliningrad Oblast, the former Eastern Prussia, with the capital in Königsberg.
Can you put this on a map for people who don't know?
Yeah, so this is like an exclave of modern Russia between Poland and Lithuania in the Baltics.
Exactly.
So basically now we entered a turmoil period which will take some time, and I just tell to people that if someone wants a calm life without any struggle and back to peace, this territory is not going to be the same anytime in the next 50 years as it used to be 10 years ago. And if someone wants to calm down and this, you just go to Canada. And that's what many people in Ukraine actually do. We have the biggest refugee and people migrating movement since World War II, basically. Yeah. So in this situation, first of all, we have to learn how to live in the new reality. And we have to take some kind of initiative. This is just a new reality and that's it. And that's what basically I'm trying to do. I accept the fact where we are at the moment, and I just having the set of cards that the life brought me, I try to make the best out of it I can. That's it, basically.
Right.
You can follow Palabo on his Facebook page. Join the conversation about traveling and being a digital nomad. You can also see pictures, videos, and stories that don't necessarily make it into the podcast. Simply search for the Radio Vagabond.
I remember in the winter before this year, there was a lot of talk and hopes for Ukrainian spring counter-offensive this year, 2023. Some media say that failed, or at least it wasn't as powerful as it was expected. Zelensky was quoted of saying that it's going slower than desired. What are your thoughts on the counteroffensive this spring?
The media build up so much anticipation that everybody thought this will be the same scenario as liberating, for example, Kherson or Kharkiv provinces, But Russians also became smarter. And the reality on the battlefield just showed that it's not that easy. And this is a tough battle. What else can I say?
Yeah.
There was enough time to plan protection and to build all the fortifications. All of us seen at least on some explanations how it happened. It's just difficult. What else can you say?
So, Orest, you're organizing a trip with NomadMania in October. Some people might think, oh, that's crazy going to Ukraine right now. Tell me a little bit about what that is all about, the NomadMania trip. So,
the word trip is not really appropriate here in the classic sense, as many people would think. I would rather tell it is a visit to Ukraine, and the central topic here is the NomadMania Travel Awards. So we, on our online platform NomadMania, on an annual basis organize such event as award where we praise different travelers from different countries around the world for their extraordinary travel achievements. And so far, this event have been happening only online. So in the process of developing the vision, we started thinking okay, maybe we should move this offline, because nothing beats the personal interaction between the travelers, right? As you already know. And Ukraine was an interesting place because, first of all, I'm down here and can basically organize the stuff and the logistics. Also, it is a unique place which is taking part in history now more than anytime before. This place is unique enough to visit at those circumstances, but still it's doable enough logistically. So putting all of those things together, and obviously the fact that NomadMania stands for liberty and support of a good over evil, also brought us the fact that Ukraine was one of the logical places to hold this event. Yeah, we just came up with a solution that this will be held in Ukraine. This is a test because we never did it offline. And this is like a unique event which really stands out of everything people seen before and travelers seen before. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And basically over the event, like first of all, we are going to organize this in an underground bunker.
Right.
To keep it safe and follow all the security procedures, official security procedures in Ukraine.
So there's going to be a gala-style dinner with an award show, and it's taking place in a bunker in Lviv.
Yeah, underground place, underground shelter, adapted to the conference hall, food and meetings of people in a gala-style Oscar type for travelers. This is like the event, yeah? And in order to make it more impactful and meaningful, we are, connecting some add-ons to this event with the options of visiting other areas in Ukraine, which is Kyiv and Kharkiv. Kharkiv is all the way far east near the front line. Kyiv is the capital of Ukraine, which is essential. And Lviv is like a good solution to organize the actual live event because it's only 1 hour drive from the Polish border. So that's the idea.
Yeah, let's just talk about the three different places. So, like you said, Lviv is in the western part of the country, and it's where you live, where you are right now, and that's 1,000 kilometers away from the front line and almost at the Polish border. So, in a sense that it's so far away from the front line, you would think that is pretty safe. Am I right?
So now you cannot tell that it's completely safe anywhere in Ukraine because there are still rockets flying. And within the last month, there were 2 missile attacks on Lviv.
Yeah, there was a missile attack like a month ago on an apartment building in mid-July 2023.
Yep.
And then I just saw that you posted a video on your YouTube channel about life in Lviv right now. And you talked about another residential area in the suburb, close to where you grew up, that got badly damaged after another attack.
Exactly. So this is rather unique for us here in Lviv because nothing like this was happening for at least half a year. So that like really shaken the people and brought them back to reality. Otherwise, if you visit Lviv, most people they would not guess that there is war. But once you have these attacks, it's really like, puts you back on track. Another weird situation here is that the block which was affected by the missile attack is kind of damaged, but everything else stays absolutely normal at the same. So just 100 meters from there, you would have a school, a kindergarten, children going to school, and bar full of people. Mm-hmm. It's impossible to explain how it is, but that's how things work. So there is a tram, taxi, school, dentist, everything is like functioning, except of random missile attacks. So, regarding the question, is it safe or not? I mean, if you, God forbid, happen to be in the building which would be hit by the missile, well, you might be dead, right? But statistically wise, in terms of people now living in Ukraine and on such a vast area, there is much bigger risk to get into the traffic accident anywhere in the world than in Ukraine. If we are talking about, let's say, crime, street crime, yeah? Because for many people, if they think about the war, they, kind of have the picture of guerrilla fighters jumping from bush to bush, hiding between the buildings and shooting from there, yeah? This is absolutely not the case with Ukraine. In Ukraine, we have a direct front line, World War II type, with tanks, rockets, and artillery. And the fight, ground fight, doesn't spill over that territory. So basically everything beyond the artillery range, which is approximately 30-40 kilometers from the front line, stays absolutely the same as during the peaceful time. And there is almost zero street crime in the street. Like, it's much more dangerous in any country in Western Hemisphere. in most cities in the US than in Ukraine. Ukraine was a very peaceful country before the war, even, with the very, very little street crime. And now, because of the martial law, because of more police presence and more cautious on the street, because of the curfew that we have at night, these numbers went like really, really low. So that is like the feeling you have now in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And streets are full of people. Like if I go now to the central streets in Lviv, you see like street musicians, kids having ice cream, young guys driving their bikes, jumping, on these bricks, and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw in your video you were walking around with our friend Johnny FD, and I also it looked like a totally normal city. There was even a little kiddie train in the middle of the city where kids were getting on a train, and it looked like everyday life.
There are tourists. Those were the local tours that people from other cities in Ukraine came to Lviv for a visit, for a vacation.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Bond.
Radio Vagabond.
Okay, let's move further east to your capital, Kyiv, in the center of the country. How safe is that?
Kyiv has very similar situation, but of a few differences. First of all, it's as lively as Lviv, with all the businesses, functioning people, even some festivals happening on the streets. But because of its proximity to Russian Federation and because of its more strategic value, this is a much more desired target. So the attacks on Kyiv are happening more frequently. At the same time, it's much better protected. So we are talking about an iron dome similar to what you got in Israel. And let's say in May, during the entire May of 2023, 19 out of 30 days there was an attack on Kyiv. But over 90% of the missiles or drones are being hit in the air. That's how people stay. So basically, you have this like turbulent zone, but you carry on with your life. And now the Ukrainian defense systems are advancing, and very often, even if there is a massive attack, up to 100% of rockets or attacks are being shot in the air. Some of them spill over. Let's say if some missile can get hit in the air over the city, the part, like the explosive part of it, can fall down and destroy a car, for example. This could happen. But because of these advanced systems, we in Ukraine managed to minimize the casualties, basically.
Right. Kharkiv, what's going on there right now?
All right, so Kharkiv is much further east. We are talking about 30 kilometers from the Russian border, and at certain times at the early stages of the war, the front line was actually on the edge of Kharkiv. I visited Kharkiv 2 times last year. The difference between summer and autumn is tremendous. Like if in summer there were very little people on the streets, in autumn it was already like more busy with life. And in terms of, let's say, energy infrastructure, how the electricity was going, because you remember in autumn we had like these troubles with the electricity supplies. Russians were hitting power stations. Kharkiv was doing even better than Kyiv. Now I haven't been to Kharkiv a long time ago, but many of my friends did, and they told that many people actually came back to Kharkiv. So it's now much more lively than it used to be before. At the same time, I am not living there, and for me, Copenhagen is approximately similar distance as Kharkiv. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of like geographical relevance you've got. Kharkiv is less protected than Kyiv, and because it's much closer to the Russian border, you could have the situation when the missile, will fly in, let's say, in like 2-3 minutes there. So basically, there you have to watch out, but still, people do live and stay there.
But Orest, I heard in the news not that long ago that Ukraine authorities have ordered civilians to evacuate the Kharkiv areas. And that the Russians were advancing.
Exactly, yeah. So we are talking about the evacuation of some frontline areas around Kupiansk,
right,
which is approximately 2-hour drive east of Kharkiv.
Yeah, around 120 kilometers.
Yeah, because the battle is intensifying over there. That is absolutely true, but no one is going to Kupiansk, and as I told, if you are beyond the artillery range, that doesn't make much difference. It's only like a rocket what makes a difference. Another thing, what we understood during the war is that geography really matters. Yeah, so let's say we are coming back to February 2022, 24th of February, when there was initial attack. Many people in Lviv were so afraid that in 2 days Russian tanks will be rolling over central Lviv, which is 1,000 kilometers away from the Russian border. So what actually Russians managed to do is just approach Kharkiv and approach Kyiv. And then they were stopped because of a few destroyed bridges and like small rivers. Mm-hmm. So geography really matters at war. You wouldn't think of like this in the 21st century, but it does. Even a small creek can make a difference in the advance of any army, And it's not the situation like you can just openly parade, like walk on the street and make 200 kilometers per day. You cannot do 50 kilometers. It's just like every inch is got by a huge resistance and fight. So it's very, very unlikely situation when, let's say, there is a major escalation 120 kilometers away, and then the next day you have Russian tanks in the city. Like this is simply not happening because it doesn't work that way on the battlefield. You start understanding this once you are actually into it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know what? Another thing, it's here because Western media, they simplify things. They tell people evacuate from Kharkiv, but what it means, it's people from the villages in Kharkiv province are being evacuated.
Right.
Sometimes it's so weird to me because there was a case, and I was even publishing about this. I was upset about this kind of news online. So I was in United Kingdom in March, where I met this team. And one morning I wake up and I check the news and I see in BBC, Lviv is hit by the missile attack, residential building is targeted, and a family of 5 is died. This is like terrible news. Your city is being attacked. Hopefully those people are not your friends or family, and you start checking on the map like where it is, and then you realize that the village in Lviv province, 2-hour drive from the city, was hit by the missile, and most probably just the rocket was flying towards Lviv, but the air defense hit it and the rocket fell down, and unluckily it fell down on a house in a rural area. But just think of it, like it's a big difference when the rocket hit a residential building in a densely populated urban city, or it's a side effect of a defense in a rural area.
Right.
And this is like just the news, they don't produce it. So there is a big difference if there is an explosion in New York City or in New York State, somewhere deep in the Appalachian Mountains.
Yeah, that's a good comparison. Like, is it Finger Lakes in upstate New York, or is it Manhattan?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But both locations are called New York.
Yeah.
You can see pictures, videos, and links and read much more on theradiovagabond.com. You can also send a few lines to Palabo and get featured on the show. Tell him where you are and what you're doing right now as you're listening to these words. Just click on Contact on theradiovagabond.com and fill out the form. This is the Radio Vagabond podcast.
So the visit to Ukraine is for NomadMania. That's a community of extreme travelers and people who are going to a lot of different places. And you're actually a part of the NomadMania team now. And this visit is taking place in October. Who is it for? Who can join? And how does it work?
This is definitely an unconventional visit, first of all, and there is a risk, right? We are not going to tell there is not, but we try to follow all the procedures, and as we see, Ukraine is visited by different official delegations from many different countries, so we will keep it on the highest possible level. We do cooperation with local authorities and also with local travel like state organization, just to make it as meaningful as possible. So we try to make it as the kind of educational visit, so we stay away from the dark tourism side. We don't want to produce pictures of destroyed buildings and people suffering. We are on the side of support and inspiration and understanding. That's the main key. So we will meet local humanitarian organizations who are doing their best in such difficult times. We are going to see, let's say, what prevented Kyiv not to fall. And there we will see a river and a bridge and how things happened, how things work in a tactical sense. Then I am now speaking with our travel state bureau about kind of maybe trying to test some memorial places to visit to make it impactful and understanding, because I understand that people are watching at us. This is a huge responsibility, and I kind of feel this anxiety a little bit, if you would tell so. But we will do our best, and we will proudly present what Ukraine has to offer, and we will keep everybody as safe as possible within our group. And by doing this, this will be our gesture of support, and this will be the way for people who actually will be courageous enough to visit. This will be, I hope, will be life-changing, and this will enable them to feel through what Ukraine is going, to understand things better, and basically message this back in their societies, to do something similar what Danish people did recently.
Right.
So this is how I see it.
Yeah, and it's also worth noticing that you can decide if you want to do all three places, or if you just want to go to Lviv, or you want to go to Lviv and Kyiv, or if you want to do the whole visit all the way to Kharkiv as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So obviously understanding that we cannot bring 100 people to Kharkiv, right? It's just too far, too complicated, and can be too dangerous for such an event. So we limit a number of people. I'm not sure if there'll be any available spots on the Kharkiv package when this audio will be produced. Yes, so you'll just go follow the link and check it out. Mm-hmm. But we do have a very small group going to Kharkiv. Then the group comes back to Kyiv, and this is joined by other people, so the group will grow in Kyiv, and the main event with the biggest hall, like with the biggest group of people, will be already in Lviv for those who just come across the border from Poland for the actual event and some city visit in the west.
Yeah, and when you say come across the border, that's the way to come to Ukraine, because the airports are closed.
Yeah. It's important to understand that none of Ukrainian airports is functioning at the moment. You can get inside only Overland. And you know what? I was surprised speaking with many of my international colleagues. Many of them even thought that it's not possible to come to Ukraine. But what I want to assure is that every EU border is open and functioning properly, so you can get overland from any border from any European Union country to Ukraine traditional way.
You walked across the border, right, a few days ago?
Exactly. Yeah, you can do buses, you can do pedestrian crossings, and you can do trains. Yeah. So the most convenient way is to enter by train, because they are operating according to the schedule. You can buy ticket online on the website without any issues. And so basically since we will start from the west in Lviv, the most convenient way to enter Ukraine is to fly into Poland. The two big international airports are Krakow and Warsaw, which are 3-hour drive from Ukrainian border. There are a bunch of smaller airports closer to the border, like Lublin and Rzeszów, and the most convenient way to enter is the border town of Przemysl. I know it's impossible to pronounce, so you can just get to Przemysl by hourly trains from any place in Poland, and then there are at least 3 daily trains to Lviv across the border, which takes like 2 hours. As easy as that. Immigration on the Polish side is happening at the train station. Immigration on Ukrainian side is happening on the train itself.
Yeah. And even though this is a NomadMania event, you don't have to be somebody who's been to 193 countries to come.
Everybody is welcome. Obviously, we try to get our community as friendly as possible. Yeah, so you're welcome to check the entire program. However, I do know that within some of our participants, there will be UN masters, like basically people who visit every country in the world. And this is a very big honor for us, basically, to host such a community in Ukraine. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing you in your home turf, and it's going to be interesting and something I will do a lot of recordings for the Radio Vagabond on as well. And if people want to see more about what this is all about, I put all the relevant links in the episode notes and on the radiovagabond.com. So click on it and also see the video that I posted there and a link to your channel as well.
I'm looking forward to this. At the moment, I'm working hard on a daily basis to prepare everything, and we will just try to do our best and present the best what Ukraine has to offer. Also, as a response for all this support and embracement what we are living through at the moment, because we understand that together this is the struggle to make our world a much better place in the nearest future. Yeah.
Thank you so much, my friend, and see you soon. Stay safe.
See you. Thank you.
Radio Vagabond. Produced by RadioGuru.co.uk.